This video is not about running, it's about Tokyo, except it's not really about Tokyo, it's more about Japan, its people, and saying thank you. The Tokyo Marathon 2025 was not my first time in Japan. Many years ago, I was the president of Little League Baseball in Ireland, and my friend Peter rang me up and said, look, there's a trip we can, I'm a member of the World Children's Baseball Federation, and there's a baseball camp in Japan, and Ireland can five children can go and an adult, and you know that. So this offer was on the table, and there was some process. I can't remember what process there was of going around and selecting the 5 kids, but there could only be one person going, and it was decided that it would be me. I was self-employed, and it was probably easier for me to go. And I had to go around and teach the parents and with whoever was selected and say, look, you know, this is the way it's going to be. And in fairness, people put their trust on me that I would, you know, bring the children over. We'd have a good time, and we had a fantastic time. I don't know how we got there. I'm imagining that we landed in Tokyo and we must have got a bus down to Shizuoka. You'll hear a bit more about Shizuoka and why it is so special in the Japanese psyche, or at least the Shizuoka version of their psyche. But we got down without any bother, and it was just so well organized, you know, the Japanese thing. But with that organization, and in this video, I'm really talking a little bit about what Japanese people might be like. But one of the things was every single day, and we went there for 4 or 5 days, we went on a bus from our velodrome. We were staying in a velodrome, and we went from the velodrome on these fleet of buses across to the baseball fields, about 5 to 10k away. We did this every single morning, and every single morning we went on bus A, and we went down the back of bus A. It's a kind of Irish thing I would have done from childhood. We'll all be down the back of the bus, and with us were the Canadians. And every single day, there must have been other teams on the bus, but I remember the Canadians. I suppose that we all spoke English, and we sat down the back of the bus. And every single day, before the bus would go anywhere, somebody would stand up. Now they'd stand up and they'd speak in Japanese, and then we translate it into English. And they'd say, "Ohayou gozaimasu," and we'd all go, "Ohayou gozaimasu." And they'd say, "On behalf of the World Children's Baseball Federation," but they'd be saying this in Japanese, but then we translate it. "On behalf of the World Children's Baseball Federation, I'd like to welcome you on board our fleet of buses that will take us to the baseball field today in Shizuoka, home of Mount Fuji. And we will be traveling a distance of some 5 kilometers today, and then there will be drills, there will be practice, and I promise you, you will all have a great amount of fun. We want you to have a safe and happy time here with us in Shizuoka, home of Mount Fuji." And she'd sit down, and of course we translate. And then another woman would stand up, and she'd say, "Ohayou gozaimasu," and we go, "Ohayou gozaimasu." She'd say, "On behalf of the municipal bus company of Shizuoka, home of Mount Fuji, we'd like to welcome you all aboard our latest fleet of buses that are all equipped with anti-lock braking systems and the latest technology. They are maintained to the highest standards of Japanese code, blah, 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 blah. And today we will be driving you 5 to 6 kilometers to the baseball fields, and we hope you have a very safe and happy trip." And she would sit down after the translation. And then a man would stand up. And this was every single day. The man would stand up and he'd say, "Ohayou gozaimasu." And we'd say, "Ohayou gozaimasu." And he'd say, "On behalf of the Municipal Bus Workers Union of Shizuoka, home of Mount Fuji, I would like to welcome you on my bus today, and I will drive you to 5 to 6 kilometers to the baseball fields. I have been tested to Japanese standard, blah, 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 code, blah, blah, blah. And I will drive you safely and attentively to the baseball fields." And then he'd sit down. And this would go on. Well, it went on every day. Every day we got on this bus, and every day they told us the same stuff. And I thought, surely they know we heard it yesterday. We were always, anyway, that was the way they did things. And it was, but I mean, they did take us safely and happily. And when they did all this standing up and sitting down, it was always translated. But the Japanese also gave us a translator ourselves for each of the teams. And the translator was great. And she was there to translate anything you wanted, she translated. And of course, most things are in English signage and all these kinds of things. But it was great. It was a great facility to have. And we were staying in this velodrome with a canteen and all that. And I don't eat seafood, and I'm very nervous of eating seafood. So if I'm in any doubt, I don't eat anything. So there's a very limited amount of things that I would eat because it was buffet food, and it was really lovely buffet food. But I love Asian rice. I really do love Asian rice, or rice when I eat it in Asia, whatever way you cook it. And I like, and they had these, kind of looks like sausage meat in these lettuce parcels. So these green parcels, lettuce with some sort of meat in it. And I would eat those, and I'd be very happy with that. And one day I was there chewing away, and I'm not making much progress. And I pull out, and it turns out that in amongst the lettuce, there's the tip of a rubber glove, which is green and translucent, not the blue types that we have here, but somehow or other, this is green translucent. And I sort of just amused me. I wasn't remotely bothered. I thought it was amusing. I still think it's amusing. And I turned to my translator and I said, "Oh, look at this." She didn't find it amusing at all. She rushes into the kitchen, and all you can hear is Japanese screaming. You know. Luckily enough, there was no harikiri, but it was like, I just thought it was funny. But again, the way I would culturally do things would not be the way they might do things. Another instance was where one of the kids was not feeling well, and so we're in the velodrome, and one of the kids was not feeling well, one of the American kids. And the great thing was that although you went on your own, which was a responsibility, the coaches all then got together, and we looked after all the kids, and so you helped out where you could. And one of the American kids was feeling unwell, and I certainly thought it was probably more homesickness than anything else, but we brought him down to the infirmary, and the Japanese nurse and the doctor are there, and they do so you can see them poking him and doing a few things, blood pressure, I don't know. But they decided there wasn't much wrong with him, and they let him off. And that was fine. And that evening, there was a meeting of the coaches. We were all meeting to, meeting. And the kids, to a certain extent, we were in this velodrome, you couldn't get out, but but they ran around, and one of my guys, Dean, I don't know whether he was the chaser or the chasee, but anyway, he twisted his ankle. And so we're on this meeting, but the Japanese decided, right, he's twisted his ankle, we bring him off to hospital to get an x-ray. So they put Dean in an ambulance, and while they thought, well, while we're at it, what about that American kid? And so they go upstairs, he's asleep, and I just picked him up, put him in this ambulance, and they're b-boying their way into Shizuoka, home of Mount Fuji. and he wakes up. Thank God Dean was there, because he knew Dean. But he wakes up in an ambulance, and he's gone to bed in a dormitory. He wakes up and he's in an ambulance going to a Japanese hospital. So the American coaches went mad. I could see a certain logic to it. It didn't bother me, but anyway, yeah. And then we were in this velodrome, and it was kind of like they didn't want you to leave. And I'd been to a boarding school. I know all about bunking out. And I just said to the kids, listen, I saw a 7-Eleven. They're ubiquitous in Japan, but I saw a 7-Eleven one day around the bus. I said, let's get out to the 7-Eleven. I said, when we go past the gates, do not look at anybody. Do not turn your eyes. Just go straight. We're going to the 7-Eleven. And we left, and a guy followed us. You could hear him, and he's on the phone very, to people as we go to the 7-Eleven, and all the time we're in the 7-Eleven, he's yammering on, probably saying, they've escaped. And we got whatever we wanted in the 7-Eleven. We wandered back. But yeah, it was very, very safe. And another day, towards the end, there was this, they had the closing ceremony, and they wanted rehearsals for the closing ceremony. Now, if it was Ireland in the closing ceremony, well, in particular at this closing ceremony, Herman Hank Aaron was going to be doing some presenting or some speech. So Hank was going to do some speech, and Sadaharu O, and both are very famous baseball players in America and Japan. And they were both going to be doing speeches, and there'd be all the teams would line by, I suppose, and all this sort of stuff. And much as I like and often say, practice doesn't make perfect practice makes perfect, this was like obsessional perfect practice. So it was 30 plus degrees in the sun and the humidity, and it's baking down on us while we had to rehearse going past and doing all this. And if it was Ireland, you would have said, right, you're going to start there and you're going to finish there. But we went around, and then they read out Herman Hank's entire speech. I'm never one great for speeches, but and then they did the whole thing. We were absolutely fried, but it went well. I mean, there was no great problems, but yeah, it was it was their way of making sure that absolutely nothing could go wrong. But we had a great time, and they did one thing that I thought was just extraordinary. That showed the way they think, and I still think about this as a way. And I had been away a couple of times with on trips with kids with baseball and this and that and the other. Usually with two people, and then you could be good cop or bad cop, or you could switch or whatever. But when you're away on your own, you're a bad cop. But anyway, we had a great time. I mean, really did have a great time. And but one thing that I thought, the thing I still think about this all the time, and we did all this happened before that film Lost in Translation, which I think is an amazing film. It encapsulated my whole, exactly what Japan was like for me. But the one thing they did that I've never stopped thinking about was the people who were coming were from countries from all over the world. So there would have been very poor countries and very rich countries, and Ireland was somewhere in the middle and on its way up to probably where it is now. But and I'd been away on these trips, and we had children from low-income backgrounds and high-income backgrounds, and it could be very difficult. We went to the States, and one kid had a whole load of money, and he bought loads of stuff, and I found it uncomfortable. I don't know what the other kids felt, but I certainly found it a bit uncomfortable. But when we went to Japan, the Japanese said, we want you to bring a gift. And this is very important to us. But you can only bring one gift, and the gift has to be of this type. And you're thinking, And the type of gift they asked us to bring was a stone. They wanted us to bring a small stone, coaches and kids, a small stone from where we lived. And so I lived at that stage, went down to the beach, picked up a pebble from the beach. And there was a certain size, and you could, And we were told we had to bring this stone. So I just told the kids, listen, just make sure you got a stone from where you were. And so everybody picked one from their locality. And we went to Japan with our little stone. And then I didn't know what was going to happen. But they had us go to a school in Shizuoka, home of Mount Fuji. And we went to Shizuoka and to this school with our stone. And we all queued to go in. And we had the slippers and all that. We changed into slippers, and then we met the kids from the school who were at the same age group as our kids, and we handed them over the gift of the stone, and then they made a stone garden out of it. They took all the stones from all the kids from all around the world, and they made a stone garden. And I thought it was just so imaginative. It was so. It meant that and everyone's gift was of equal value. It was just a stone from your house, and I thought that was so thoughtful. It was it really struck home to me that really is how Japanese people think. And we had a fantastic time. I've never forgotten it. We had a fantastic time at the marathon, and yeah, it was Japan. It's really a special place, and if you get the chance, go there. This video, as always, wasn't about running. There's a lot of people I'd like to thank. I'd like to thank my friend Peter. I couldn't begin to describe how many good things have happened since, because of, not just for me, but for people I know and people involved in baseball. So, that was really special. And it was such a special trip, and it wouldn't have happened without Peter. I do have to say thank you to all the families who trusted me to bring their most precious object, their 10-year-olds, off to Japan. That was I don't undertake that lightly. Obviously, I'd like to thank all of you for watching all of these kinds of videos. Particularly this week, I'd like to thank Aubrey, formerly of Aubrey Running, now for Bigger Than Running, a YouTuber who was very kind and promoted my channel. And in transitioning from Aubrey Running to Bigger Than Running, I think his videos are going to be somewhat related to the wider things around running, which is really what these kinds of things are about. And I encourage you all to watch his videos. I'll put the link in the description. But of course, the biggest thanks are to the people of Japan, the friendliness, when you're there in the marathon, and the bowing and the smiling and the waving and all that stuff. I remember all of that for a very long time. Arigato gozaimasu. See you after London.